This week, we have been looking at two parallel sections of the book in chapters 57 and chapter 65. And we are looking at the condition of the people. I said last week that it seems that these chapters probably are addressed to those who have returned from captivity, but it's really focused more largely on the human condition. It's more theologically organized than historically organized. Yes, the return may sort of give us the basic foundations for the thought, but it's really not talking specifically about those people at that time as much as it is talking about human character. And what it is saying to us is this condition of sin is deeply, deeply ingrained in us humans. Now, it's important that we recognize the difference between sins and sin. And we'll be talking about that both this week and next week especially. Sins are actions which are in contradiction to God's way for human living. Sin, with a capital S, is that determination to have my way. So it's very possible for a person to be sinful who doesn't commit obvious sins. That, of course, was an issue that Jesus was dealing with the religious leadership and the religious people of his own time. Oh, we don't do any of those bad things. We don't commit any of those sins, so we're not sinful. And Jesus said, oh, yes, you are, because your life is ruled by self-interest. Now, the language that we see in this section that we're looking at this week is very, very loaded. And so I talked with you in the lesson about the characteristic of Semitic speech, which is called hyperbole, where you sometimes say a good deal more than you literally mean in order to drive the point home. That may be what's going on here with some of the language that is used to describe these people and their behaviors. In order to try to get that point across, are they really worshiping fertility goddesses? Are they really sacrificing their children to idols? Or is the prophet saying, in effect, this is what you're doing? And that relates to you and me. No, we may not be worshiping the god Mammon. We may not be worshiping the goddess Inanna. We may not be literally burning our children in the arms of the molten iron idol, the red hot iron idol of Moloch. But oh friends, how tempted are we to worship possessions? How tempted are we to bow down at the altar of covetousness, which is a nice way of saying greed? How tempted are we to bow down at the altar of pleasure, whether we're talking physical pleasure, whether we're talking emotional pleasure, whether we're talking spiritual pleasure? How much are our lives ruled by these? And in the end, how much are our lives ruled by pride? I am the center of the universe. My desires, my wishes, my plans are the center of everything. And how much we sacrifice our children on these altars, on the altar of covetousness, on the altar of pleasure, on the altar of pride. And so this strong language that we encounter in these passages that we've looked at this week, we need to be very careful not to say, well, that stuff doesn't apply to us. I'm afraid it may very well apply to us, and that as the prophet has spoken, he has spoken to us about the situations that we are facing. So I say again, it appears that Isaiah is talking to people who are very proud of their birthright. Why did God save us? Why does he deliver us? Well, because of who we are as the chosen people. In the same way, we Christians can say, well, I have become a member of the church. I have given my life to Christ. Therefore, that's all that matters. But I want to say to you, and I'll say it again throughout these sessions, what he's wanting to do is to bring us to that place where out of clean lives, we can live God's life before the world. As you're aware, again and again, the world looks at us and says, what do you have to offer that I don't already have? Why should we accept your God? You lie. You are arrogant. You are self-centered. You are self-pleasing. How are you any different from us? And that's the point that's being made here by Isaiah. If the world is to be won, they've got to see a different character in God's followers than they see in the world at large.